What up? Welcome back to the Tomahawk Talk podcast. As always, I am your man, Jeb Mays. With me, as always, we have Jose and Ryan, and we have another special guest. We have Mr. Brandon Gaudin. Brandon, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. Great to be with you guys. And just a couple weeks here to spring training. Almost time to rock and roll.
We are so excited. This has been a long off season, and we're just ready to get back in the swing of things. Our first podcast this off season, we had a special guest, CJ. We had CJ with us. Can you kind of explain, because we asked him to, how awesome is it working with him?
There is nobody that is more prepared than CJ Nitkowski, man. So for what I do, the joy of walking in the booth and knowing that you can throw anything at him and he is going to be prepared for it is such a luxury. It doesn't always work that way. You can talk big picture landscape, you can dive into any Brave, no matter how relevant or if they're just called up, if they don't have a lot of time in the majors. He's got everything on them. And he's just a down to earth good dude, just one of the nicest guys that you'll ever come across. And when you do this job and you have to do 145 games, which we do a year, you want someone who is passionate. And he is passionate not only about the Braves, but just in general about the game of baseball, about the art of baseball. So, yeah, I mean, all of those factors. And as soon as made it so that when he stepped into the booth last year, and I know for Braves fans, it was like, oh no, who's going to replace Jeff Francoeur? And obviously, Frenchie's still doing some games. But I think all of those factors, all those things that CJ brought to the booth instantly, it just felt very comfortable for me.
Yeah, obviously we love Frenchie, and we heard about CJ coming over, but I never really watched any Texas games, so I was like, who is this guy? And as soon, as the first game was kind of over, I was like, it clicks. It's perfect. So
Yeah,
y'all
it's
do a fantastic job.
well, you guys notice it's different. So I think that both of them bring strengths that the fans like. And having Frenchie do, 30, 35 games and CJ do the rest. And then, of course, Glav, what he brings is a Hall of Famer in his pitching perspective. I think Braves fans are really fortunate to have those analysts and kind of the different skill sets that they bring throughout the course of the year. And we did quite a few three-man booths last year as well. When CJ and Frenchie were together, just hearing a pitcher and a batter kind of ping things back and forth, if you really
Absolutely.
lock in on what they're saying, like selfishly, I just find myself listening from time to time and not really thinking about what I'm going to say next. And if you lock in on that, like, wow, this is pretty cool insight that they're bringing to the table on a nightly basis.
Yeah, it's a treat to listen to y'all. I mean, I think we have the best booth, really.
Paul. Fine,
Appreciate
Paul.
that. Yeah, you guys and my mother. So we got four. Got four on board.
You got the rest
I
of Braves
mean,
country, man.
honestly,
So
since you mentioned that, I went through the same thing when we did that podcast with CJ. I was kind of in a trance just listening to him until I realized, oh, I'm supposed to talk as well. So it happens to all of us.
yeah, I mean, we've been fortunate enough to obviously have you, and we've had Ben and CJ on this off season, and just kind of hearing the different point of views, with Ben doing radio and CJ being a color guy, and then now you being the play by play, it's been a treat, really.
Jeb,
Um,
are you holding a lightsaber?
no,
That's his colorful mic.
my,
That's
oh
awesome, man. That thing's awesome. I need that in the booth. I might have to borrow that sometime.
I will definitely let you borrow it if you want. Oh gosh. So we had a couple fan questions come in, and we're gonna use them. We have some ones that we want to know too, but one of the ones that was pretty popular is, what is your favorite like pun?
No,
Like
mine.
our see you later, like frozen pizza, like kind of those kind of calls.
Yeah. So obviously the one line joke about Mastroboni and Johnson and Hand that's that's not my favorite. It took I bring that up because it took on more of a life of its own than I ever could have imagined or desired. Because I thought of it just I just saw the situation unfolding and I thought, well, everybody at home is going to be thinking the same thing. And so, since it's the elephant in the room, I need to address it in somewhat of a subtle or not so subtle way and just move on. And I thought, sure, a couple people might laugh, a couple buddies might text me. I did not think it would do what it did. But I bring that up because I know that's probably what you guys were thinking. I would
Oh,
actually
by
say,
far my favorite. By far. Round of applause for that, because unbelievable work, Brandon. Absolutely legendary right there.
oh man. And then he was a free agent this winter, and I thought, oh, if he comes here, we could be in real trouble. But he ended up going to Seattle. But those other ones, I like. I like those other calls. Obviously, I incorporate them. I think they're fun. People always get confused about frozen pizza. I used to always like to think of a batter whose knees are buckled on a really good pitch on a third strike, that they're frozen, right? They can't do anything. And I don't know where that came from, but I said it in a game last year. I had never used that in a baseball broadcast before, and I just kind of liked it. It was different, and so I use it occasionally. But I think the big fly for the big bear is probably, it's a fun call because it's a big moment, and the way that those words, certain syllables come out of an announcer's mouth better, like just sound more punchy, if you will. They sound like they have more power, and that call tends to have that. Not necessarily because it's me. I just mean the way that phrase is. So I really do get excited when Marcel knocks one out of the park, because that's a fun one to call.
Well, especially because I mean you get to do it so many times.
Yeah, I'd love to do it
Totally.
40 or 45 more times this season.
Yeah,
So if Marcel could keep lining that up, that'd be great.
we
Yeah, we're
actually
right there
pretty
with you.
interesting. We have the clip from St. Louis from when you did the Hawk tour.
Oh
We have
gosh.
that. We have that as our outro.
Oh boy. Yeah. I don't know whatever happened to her. I read that she was selling some meme coin and then she disappeared, and like she got apparently kidnapped and the CIA has her or something. I don't know, but God bless her. So yeah. Uh,
The
Oh
one I
gosh.
keep thinking of is I don't know if we were in Colorado or wherever we were, but the guy that was eating the ice cream cone. I just
oh,
keep
that
thinking
was
about that one.
Colorado. Yeah. And Peter Moylan was the analyst, and he and I could not stop laughing. It was and it's Colorado. There's a small crowd. It was late at night back east, and we were slap happy, and it was a long road trip, and we were just having fun. But yeah, when that ended up, by the way, so I go down to batting practice the next day,
Oh,
and I don't know if this story's been told, but Brian Snitker comes up to me. We're talking. He goes, "Hey, just so you know, that's my buddy with the ice cream last night." And I said, "Wait, what?" He goes, "Yeah, that's my good buddy. I got him a ticket, so take it easy on him next time." And so, man, then I really felt bad. I was like, "Oh my gosh, tell him I'm sorry. We were just totally joking. I thought it was fantastic. He looked like he's an awesome hang." But yeah, that ended up being Snit's good buddy. So,
That is fun. I did not know that.
yeah, I don't know that I've told that before.
What are
Golly.
the odds on that, man?
Yeah.
Thousands of people in the park and the one guy that Snit happens to know.
in Colorado, out of all places.
Yeah, but that ice cream, it got in there. It didn't stand a chance. No.
Speaking of, kind of Colorado and we touched on St. Louis, what is like your favorite road ballpark?
Tell people a lot that the ballpark itself that is up there is Colorado, because the backdrop of the Rockies,
Yep.
it's so beautiful. And look, they haven't been good for a while, so the crowds haven't been great. I will say, Braves fans, though, it's louder when the Braves do something well than Colorado does, which just speaks to Braves country. But it really is, the setting for Colorado's beautiful. The other one that I had not been to, I could tell you Fenway. I love Fenway. It's unbelievable, right? And Wrigley. When you walk in those places, there's a magic, there's a mystique that you can't replicate. You think about the history, the players that have walked through those corridors. It's really something. So just throwing those out for a second, I really liked going to San Francisco. I had never been out there. You see it on TV. It looks so beautiful. McCubby's Cove. The weather is typically nice. It's just chilly enough to where you need something like this, a quarter zip or a light jacket. And it's just really good baseball weather. Kind of has a postseason weather feel to it. and the look out of the water, the drive into the ballpark too. I would say that's one that I don't often hear fans talk about. That I think, if you get time to take a West Coast trip with the Braves and hit Denver and hit San Francisco, those are two really cool parks.
I really enjoyed Denver. It's very beautiful up there.
Yeah.
Um, you know, speaking of like favorite road cities, stuff like that, what would be like a favorite road restaurant? Like, or like say, you don't like the St. Louis ballpark, but they've got like the best steak you've ever had going out on a road trip.
Yeah, I like to always try to find something local. So wherever our hotel is, I'll Google. And actually, Ben Ingram has been awesome to me. Ben is, and you guys had Ben on. He's fantastic, and he's become a great friend and just one of the best dudes ever. And so he and I and Jay Chat on the radio crew, the radio and TV crews, we hang out a lot on the road because for natural reasons, right? You're doing the same job, but we're also all kind of in the same stage of life, and it's just a lot of fun to hang with those guys. So Ben has been my resource at every town. I know that if I need a lunch spot or a dinner spot, I can go to Ben and he's got something. And so I always try to find something local, and Ben likes to do that too. So there's not really any one spot yet because I've only done this a couple years that I can say, yeah, when I'm in Chicago, I go here. When I'm in New York, I go there. But I know that my tour of Major League Baseball, food wise, is a lot richer because Ben Ingram is doing the radio for the Braves. So that's a good thing.
Can you kind of explain that? Because I know you still do kind of college and still kind of call games other than Atlanta, but how does that like how is the interview process with that? How was like kind of transitioning to doing the Braves full time?
Yeah, so before the Braves, I was doing a full football season, a full college basketball season, and a partial baseball season for Fox. And look, the Braves, as you guys know, that's the team that I grew up just loving and watching. It was TBS, it was Skip Carey every single night. That was my bread and butter. That was my childhood. I went to those World Series games through the 90s because I had an aunt and uncle who lived here in Atlanta. So the Braves job to me was always coveted at the top of the list. But I just never thought that it would open. I loved Skip Carey. I loved Chip Carey, and I count Chip as a friend, and he's been incredible to me over these last couple years in this transition. I just always thought Chip would retire here, and Chip has 20 years left. So I that thought never really entered my mind of, oh, maybe if you live in Atlanta long enough, this could be a possibility. But when I saw the news that Chip was going to St. Louis, I thought, well, if there was ever a team job, it's different than what I was doing at Fox. If there was ever a team job that I was interested in, that was it. And so thankfully there was mutual interest. Everything happened incredibly quickly. From the time Chip left to the time I was up there interviewing, I think was only 5 days. And then it was 2 days after that that I got the offer. So it all happened within a 7 to 10 day window. And obviously, it was like one of those whirlwind moments, and then you have to pinch yourself. Holy cow, this is actually happening. But yeah, I mean, look, for me, it was the pie in the sky job, and I just feel incredibly grateful to do it. And I also feel grateful that Fox has allowed me to still do college basketball. I just had a game last night and got back in town, and so they allow me to work with my schedule. They work with me through spring training, and then they let me do a couple of Major League Baseball games during the regular season as well. So I feel like I'm kind of having my cake and eating it too, so to speak, right now, and just feel blessed to be in this situation.
So, who was on the back of the overgrown jersey?
Oh, in the picture?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing on the back. So that was, I think, and I could be wrong on this. So my parents got me that in '94, I believe, during the strike year. Um, I think that was a real authentic jersey. I don't know how they got it. I've never actually asked them that, but I think back then, real authentic jerseys, you maybe couldn't even have players' names on the back. You could have replica jerseys, but I don't know if a real authentic jersey you could. So yeah, and I'm glad they didn't like put my name on the back there. Like that wouldn't be good. So it's just blank back there. But you're the first person that's ever asked that. I still have that. It's 20 feet from me and hanging in my closet. The sad thing is that it still fits. I don't wear it, but it still fits, which shows how little I've grown from age 10 to age 40. So
Yeah, I remember. I think you posted it on X, and I saw it, and I was like, "No way, it still fits."
absolutely it does, man. So
All right, Brandon, I gotta ask you, what is your favorite slash funniest story that you've had on the road with the guys so far?
oh man, there's so many, and I'm indexing of what would be appropriate to share.
Anything, please, just let it rip, baby. Let it rip.
Um, Gosh. I don't know. I can't get into specifics, but I can say we had a trip in Cincinnati last year,
I love Cincinnati.
and there's a casino in Cincinnati, and Frenchie occasionally will visit a casino, and Fre- Frenchie got on a roll at the blackjack table, and I am not a gambler. I am the most boring, crude guy you will ever meet. And so, but I went, and Frenchie's so fun, and he takes me with him. So we're at the blackjack table, and I tell him, "Hey, man, if I get down a couple $100, like I'm out." So we're going, and I'm out quick. I'm out quick, and he's raking it in. And so he tells me, he's like, well, okay, we'll put more money in. I said, I told you, I just I'll limit a couple $100. I'm out. I'm done. I don't want to lose any more money. So he says, no, 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 you're not leaving. That's how this works. If someone is going well at a table, you stay with them. That's how the luck of the cards works. I didn't know any of this. So he funds me back in. He's like, no, I will pay for you to stay here at this table. And so he did. He bankrolled me, and I did not win, but Frenchie just kept winning and winning and winning. And I don't know what the total was. All I know is that Frenchie left there a little wealthier than he entered, and I got an education on how to gamble and how to play blackjack. And there were some other things that happened that night that really aren't troublesome, but probably shouldn't be shared. But it was a good time had in Cincinnati.
That is awesome. I
Yeah.
we went to Kentucky for my brother's bachelor trip, and I think I put 100 down, and I think I was down, or I had 100 that I was going to use, and I think I was down 30 and worked my way back up, and I left. I was like, nope, I'll break even.
Man, that's how I was afraid. I think it was I don't know what maybe it was a $25 hand just to enter. And for me, that's just not my style. I'm simple. I don't want to put money down in a casino because I'm just the logical guy that says the house always wins. But Frenchie's just larger than life, and he's having a good time. And yeah, he just got rolling, and I said I'm out. He's like, no, you're not. Here's your money. You are staying right here. You are not moving until I say we are done. So that's how that went down.
It's such a baseball player thing too, the
Yeah,
superstition.
yeah,
hmm
yeah.
Can we expect another slide into second?
Nobody needs to see that, man. And they kept, so we were doing that thing with EY, who obviously is no longer with the Braves first base coach. I love that dude, by the way. He's awesome. And he did such a good job explaining what his role is and how he tells guys to get leads and steal second. And then they were saying, well, why don't you just slide into second base? Like, because I'm wearing shorts and I'm not athletic and this is just not going to look good. And sure enough, when they showed, so they filmed it, then they can flip the monitor around right there and show you how it looked. And I thought, I really hope that never makes the light of day and that never hits the air. And then throughout the course of the year, when the game would be out of hand and we were having fun, they just kept showing it and showing it. And our producer, Gretchen Caney, who's so good at her job, I mean, she makes those broadcasts fun. And in my ear, she will always tell us what is coming up. If they're going to put a graphic on the screen, hey, here's a graphic on Ozuna's last 10 games, et cetera, et cetera. But when that would come up, she would always lie to me and say, hey, we're going to put something up here real quick. Just react to it. And then they would play that stupid sliding. My head would just drop. Like, how many more times do I have to be subjected to this? So I hope we never see that thing again, but I have a feeling it's going to continue to make appearances.
We hope so. We love it. Hey,
We don't.
maybe you can ask Acuna for some pointers.
I don't think there's anybody that could help me. I'm a lost cause. Yeah.
Do you
So, Brandon,
Jose, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was just going to ask. So, Brandon, by now, I'm sure most of Braves country knows your story about how you imitated Chip Carey. I'm sorry, Skip Carey, and you wanted to become the Braves commentator since childhood. Are there any parts that are exactly like the way you would thought it would be? And then on the other side, are there any parts that are vastly different to how you thought they would be?
Yeah, I mean, the thrill of the job is as good, if not better, than I expected. And there was a moment, and I've shared this story before. There was a moment last year, my first season, well, I guess it's 2 years ago now, the home opener against San Diego. And we started on the road that year. And were those games cool? Yes. But I knew when I accepted that job that that first game at home would have extra special meaning to me. And so I intentionally got there early and I had about 20 minutes in the booth by myself, just kind of setting my stuff up. And then I just sat in the chair quietly and looked down over the ballpark. And it was an emotional moment for me because of how important that role was, how that position that Skip Carey held and Chip had kind of shaped my broadcasting career and had influenced me to get into it. And so that time that I had during the home opener is something that I will always have lodged in my memory in the most positive of ways. That was such a special day. And that time by myself there reflecting on how good life had been to me to get to that position was. That was really special. I'm getting emotional thinking about it. But that game ended with Orlando Arcia having a walk-off hit. And so not only do you get your first game, packed house, getting the job that you always wanted as a kid, but then the Braves walk it off. And I got to punch that call and then lay out and just let the crowd do the talking. And I took my right earpiece off just a little bit to better hear the crowd. And soaking all of that in at one moment, I get goosebumps thinking about it. That kind of was the culmination of wow, like I'm really getting to do this. And that whole experience, Jose, was kind of setting the tone for what I thought that job would be, just the feeling and the excitement. And that part of it has been tremendous. As far as expectations, there are things that I don't think you can prepare yourself for until you're fully in it. Everybody says, whether you're a player, whether you're a manager, whether you're an athletic trainer, a broadcaster, that it is a grind of a season, that it is a pleasure to do it, but there will inevitably be times, whether it's in July, August, September, that you will feel like, holy cow, this is a lot. And I will say I don't feel that negatively, meaning that I never have woken up saying, "Oh, I don't want to do this game today." But it does hit you sometimes like, "Wow, this for these guys to do this every day." Yeah, they're not digging ditches totally. Their jobs are better than sitting at a desk 8 to 5. They would never say otherwise. But when they have to do it every day and perform at that level, you realize it's different than the NBA where you play 2 to 3 a week, and it's different than the NFL where you play one a week. There's just a lot of pressure for those guys to do it every single day. It's like Groundhog Day. And I would say that experience has been unique for me. And it's been good. It's been good to see it through the eyes of all the different people in the travel party. But what's cool about it is you get to do life with those people for 7 months. You're with them every day for 7 months, with the exception of a couple of off days. And even sometimes on the off days, you see them. And you develop a community and a tight knit bond that is it's hard to explain. But that has been one of the most rewarding things about this job. Because when I was doing games for Fox guys, I would bounce, like yesterday I was in East Lansing. Coming up, I'm at Maryland and College Park. And then I go to Madison, Wisconsin. And all of those are great, and I love doing that, but I'm by myself. I'm like a little nomad traveling around. But when you are a part of the Braves travel party or any baseball travel party, you are with those people for 7 straight months. So you develop relationships, stories, chemistry. And it's just been a lot of fun to kind of have a community to do life with here the last couple of years.
Do you
That's
have like
incredible.
a road story, kind of with like anybody from the team?
Uh, I, Marcell Ozuna is so funny, and we look, we understand that there have been some controversy in the past with his off-field issues, and there's no need for me to address that. Everybody knows the stories there. But what I can speak to is that everybody in that clubhouse does really like him, and that he is a lot of fun, and he's very engaging. He remembers everybody's name. He always comes up and asks you how you are and smiles and gives you a high five or a handshake. And so he's just kind of, he adds life to the clubhouse. And Orlando Arce and Ozzy Albies, a couple other guys that do that too. Oh, my laundry's done. If you can hear the ding, by the way, sorry about that. And so when he comes on, though, he wears fun stuff to the ballpark every day, and always has on a different hat. And one time, this is not going to be funny unless you were there, but so usually on the bus, Marcel's sitting in the front seat in the front right of the bus on the third bus over the ballpark every day. And then in the back is the broadcasters. And Marcel comes on one day and he's got on this blue hat kicked backwards, and it's just a tub of popcorn on the hat overflowing. And I don't know why, but all of us, we get the biggest kick out of whatever hat he's wearing, and we just busted out laughing. And then the next day he comes in, it's turned around, and his hat just says "GOAT." And if anybody else did it, you might think, oh, that guy's arrogant or whatever. But for Marcel, it's just like, oh, this is a cool, fun hat. And he pulled it off so well. And so always seeing what Marcel is wearing to the ballpark and kind of the swagger he enters with, us as the broadcast crew, we always get a kick out of it.
How funny was it to watch him steal that third base last year?
Oh, man, that was awesome. I love those moments. I love when stuff like that happens. I love when Matt Olson gets a triple, and then the antics that follow with the guys in the dugout. Like, that's the good stuff, man. Throughout the course of a long season, I always say when we're broadcasting, baseball and the game and what's going on is paramount. And the fans want to be serious about the Braves, and we want that too. But you also have to have lighthearted moments. This is fun. This job is fun. It should be fun as a fan. I hope that translates every night through the screen. And so when the players are having that fun, we want to laugh with them. And when Marcel stole the base, I mean, CJ and I, we went nuts. And then CJ starts looking up, the last time that he stole a base and all that, and adding those little nuggets into the broadcast. Yeah, that was a cool moment.
We could hear the surprise in your voice.
I was shocked. Like, oh, he's going for third. Yeah.
Well,
I feel like, honestly, those moments are kind of needed in a long season. 162 games. You have a long grind for months on end. I mean, those moments are kind of a breath of fresh air as a fan. I'm sure for the players, I couldn't imagine. So those are some of the best moments of watching Braves games, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I was kind of hitting on it, but the one follow-up I would say is you do need to be careful, right? Not everything can be a joke, and I think as a broadcaster you can sometimes fall into this trap of maybe being too slap happy or forcing humor into every situation where it just doesn't belong. I think there's a balance there, and I think it's one that you try to toe delicately. But yeah, when those moments present themselves and those opportunities, just to have some fun and laugh with your partner in the booth, I think it's important, like you said, for everybody. Because when the fans get home after a long day, most of them have worked a tough job. They probably have kids screaming in the background. They're cooking dinner. They just want to sit down, maybe crack open a beer, and watch baseball and enjoy it. And I think so for them, it's a moment of fun too. And we, like I said, we just want that to translate through the screen.
That sounds like me last season. Just coming home, cracking open a beer, and just listening to y'all call the games. But what is one thing from the 24 Braves? It was, for us as fans, it was disappointing. I mean, obviously, they still made the playoffs. What is one positive thing from 24 that you see carrying over into 25?
I would say that seeing how the clubhouse never lost its way was really encouraging. So if you can, with mostly the same team, go through the highs of that 23 season, even though the postseason, as we know, sucked, but the 23 regular season was incredible. And so any clubhouse could have made it through that with flying colors, right? Because you're winning every night, you're putting up 15 runs, everything's roses, and it's great. But you go through a season like 24 where you're expected to contend for the World Series and nothing goes your way. Injury after injury after injury, and you just can't keep your head above water. You would think if a clubhouse was going to crack, it would be under that pressure. At the end of the year, you would have never known. That clubhouse was just as strong as it was at the end of 23. The guys, you have to be careful here because you don't want people to think, oh, they're laughing about losing an injury. No, not at all. There's a difference between not taking the job seriously and making sure that you are doing your job the best you can, but also still enjoying the lighthearted moments. And I think that balance that the Braves have in the clubhouse, and a lot of it starts with the leadership, is second to none. So that just encourages me that, okay, they saw the highest of the highs. They kind of saw the lowest of the lows relative to what the expectations were. And so I just think going into this season, they're probably prepared for anything. If there are injuries, and knock on wood, we hope that there aren't, whatever comes the way in 2025, I think the Braves will be ready for it and better for it because of what they faced last year.
Yeah, last year they just couldn't catch a break.
No.
It was, I don't want to say it was rough to watch, but it was pretty rough.
It was rough.
And CJ, on the pod we had with him, he said that I think it was your boss texted and asked if y'all were doing great, and he was like, "Man, I'm from Texas, where they didn't win until after he left." So he's like, "They're playing above 500. This is great."
Yeah, that's the other thing to keep in mind. And CJ had a great perspective on it when our travel party, our broadcast group would kind of be down a little bit. He had seen a lower low than that for year after year after year. And, Jason Benetti, who used to do the White Sox, now does the Tigers. I talked to him about during his time with the White Sox, how he kept up his energy when they're winning 50 games a year. You're losing 100 games. How do you because last year it felt like the sky was falling again because we had high expectations, but the Braves still made the playoffs, and he would have killed for that at the White Sox. But yet, when you watch his broadcasts, you wouldn't have known that. And so I do think it's important to keep that in perspective as well. Now, there's two sides to that coin. We can all objectively look at last year's games and say that they weren't as enjoyable to watch in 2023. And I think the Braves, to a man in the clubhouse, would agree with that. And that's just because they had to deal with all those injuries and all those ups and downs. But I have look, I'm always biased and positive with the Braves,
Yeah.
but I have high hopes for 2025. I know the Dodgers are great. I get it. I understand that roster's unbelievable. But I just have high hopes for the Braves this year.
Yeah, with the Profar signing, lengthening the lineup, I think it's going to be a great year.
Yeah.
What do you think? We need another starter or a back end guy with Jimenez going down?
I think the bullpen is probably maybe of a little more priority in my mind than another starter because you do expect to get Strider back. And when you do, that top four, provided that they stay healthy, and we know that that's a big if, but those top four starters are so darn good. I mean, with what Schwellenbach was able to do last year, Lopez, Chris Sale, Cy Young, and you get Strider back and healthy, I think it becomes a question of how does the bullpen look in spring training? And there are some guys that the Braves are bringing in, both non-roster invitees and guys on the 40-man, that they're going to look at. And I know that some people were frustrated that Alex Anthopoulos didn't make another move. And I understand. We're all fans. We all get frustrated. But I would say after getting to know Alex a little bit, and people that don't even know him know that he's a genius. And to think that he was just sitting on his hands not wanting to make a move is not the case. He worked every angle, and they made the decision that there wasn't anybody out there right now that made sense. My guess is they're going to go into spring training, assess things, and they'll see it. If they need to make an adjustment, they'll make an adjustment. But I would think, my guess is maybe not until the All-Star break, maybe before, who knows. But there's also an All-Star break, or not All-Star break, sorry, trade deadline adjustment that can be made as well. And I know some people don't want to wait for the trade deadline, but I think that Alex Anthopoulos will make the right moves at the right time.
Yeah, I felt like that talking point about AA not caring, quote unquote, that was always baloney from the start. Because if there's anything AA has shown us since he's become the GM of the Braves, is that he'll make moves if they make sense, but he will not make moves if they don't, and he won't overstep or overreach for a deal to be made. So to think that AA was just sitting and doing nothing for a while, that's just a ridiculous talking point, in my opinion.
Yeah, and nobody would be doing that in his chair at any team, but especially him. And sitting with him and hearing him talk about his job, man, he is passionate about it. And he was made for that job. That's how his mind works. He's a deal maker, but he's a baseball lover, and he knows how to put deals together, and he knows how to analyze and break things down. And he's got a good group of people around him that are helping support him with data and analysis. And And but he mixes old school and new school. So this new school approach of just looking at numbers, of course they rely on that heavily. They have to. You'd be silly not to. But you'd also be silly not to ask an old school guy like Brian Snicker, hey, we're thinking about going after this guy. What do you think of him purely from a manager's perspective? What does the eye test tell you? What does your experience tell you? And that's why Alex Anthopoulos always says, yeah, our analytics could make up a lineup 1 through 9, but Brian Snicker has the feel of that clubhouse. He let him do that. We're not going to overstep there. And I think that mix of old school and new school and understanding that is one of the things that makes Alex so good.
Yeah, we were talking with CJ and he told us about when they brought Pierce Johnson over,
Mm-hmm.
how they had a whole PowerPoint presentation drawn up for him. I think that's just crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Because a lot of people, you can write a pitcher off when they've been in Colorado, right? But what the Braves did, and I'm not saying other organizations didn't do this, but you start to look at where he had struggles and where he was successful. And when you really broke it down, you read between the numbers, you're like, wait a minute, yeah, then some of the numbers are bad when he's actually pitching in Colorado, but some of these other, and some of the hitters he was getting out, home and road, you're thinking there's more to the story here for how good this guy can be. And now the Braves are seeing that, and certainly lucky to have him. He's been tremendous.
Yeah, I think the whole bargain bin shopping, I think some of it is kind of true, but like when you take guys like Pierce Johnson, even Orlando in 23, where you kind of look at the peripheral numbers, I think the Braves do a great job at that and kind of, just finding gold pretty much.
Yeah, and by the way, on the bullpen, one guy that we didn't mention that I'm very curious to see this year is Daysbel Hernandez. We all see that he has filthy stuff.
Yep.
If he can get his control under control, I think that he could become a really good major league reliever. Now, could go 2 ways. He could continue to struggle with command and leave his pitches up at times, and he could have a high walk rate, and he could get hit by good hitters. That's possible. But the stuff is there, and I think he has that kind of screw you mentality when he takes the ball and gets to the center of the diamond, that makeup of a good reliever. And so I'm very curious to watch Daysbel this year. I'm hoping that this can be a takeoff season for him.
Yeah, we were kind of mad, but obviously this is us being fans when I think they left him down in 24 last year and they didn't bring him up, and he
Mhm.
was absolutely tearing it up down in AAA. We were really mad about that.
Yeah. But sometimes, and I'm not saying you're wrong on that. Sometimes AAA numbers can be a little deceptive,
Yep.
and it's interesting how many times you'll see a guy that they bring up from AAA who has just mediocre to bad numbers. And I'm not just saying the Braves; I'm saying across the board, because AAA leagues and teams can be pretty inconsistent. In fact, a lot of people think sometimes Double A is a better measuring stick now, but we don't need to get into that. But point is, they'll bring a guy and be like, "Gosh, that ERA doesn't look that great." But you dig deeper into why they're doing it, it makes sense, and then they have success at the major league level. And a guy like Nacho Alvarez last year, who everybody was wanting to come up, and I think Nacho at some point will be a great major leaguer. He's hitting all these homers, and every time you're seeing an electric highlight, we got to get that guy up here. But you get him up and you realize why they were hesitant, because he just simply was not ready. His glove wasn't ready. His bat wasn't ready. He was late on pitches. He had trouble making contact. And so, look, are there examples opposite where fans are right that maybe say, sure, there are. But I think sometimes it can be a little hard to judge just solely off the numbers in the minor leagues.
Absolutely.
Man,
I
what you're saying about the talent on Double A, there is a lot of truth to that because Double A is where the players that are good enough to pass from Single A or High A go, but not quite yet to Triple A. In Triple A, you also see older veterans and signings from teams. So, just like you said, Double A is where you see a lot of talent that has potential for major leagues, like my boy Michael Harris,
Yeah.
Double A straight to MLB, and look at what he did.
Yeah, and you mentioned the veterans. So the Braves had a guy like Yuli Gurriel in AAA, Sandy Leone, 12-year veteran catcher who's still with the Braves, who'll be in camp. Braves just signed Kurt Casale, another catcher who's a veteran who's been around, who's in his mid-30s. And you think, okay, why will they do that? Well, first of all, sure, for insurance. If you need someone, it's great to have a guy like that that can plug in that has experience. But also, Alex Anthopoulos has said, you have guys like Sandy Leone and Kurt Casale to be mentors for a guy like Drake Baldwin, right? So if Drake doesn't make the major league roster, which he probably won't out of camp, and he's down, Trump will probably be the backup. But then at AAA, you can have Leone or Casale, guys who have been in the majors for a decade, telling this guy things that he cannot get advice from certain coaches or other players that are going through it like he is. And I think those are strategic signings, and that is what makes a AAA roster a little unique. And so I kind of went off on a tangent there, but I'm curious to see how that plays out for Drake Baldwin this year, because I know, understandably, a lot of Braves fans are excited about him, and we are as well. I think having a Leone and a Casale around him will really pay dividends for young Drake Baldwin down the road.
I think so Drake Baldwin got a MLB invite, correct? To spring training. Who is one guy, because they didn't invite a lot, who is one guy like a Caminetti or a Drew Hackenberg that you I guess wish would have gotten an invite and are kind of excited to see rise up?
Yeah, I mean, certainly Caminetti's, there's a lot of intrigue, right? You don't get picked in his spot if there's not going to be a lot of expectations. So naturally, you're excited to see what he can bring to the table, and I think he'll get a chance down the road to prove himself. He's probably just going to need some time. Now, whether that's 1 year or 3 or 4 years, I don't know. But odds are they don't pick those guys that early unless they project them as a major leaguer. So I do have a lot of intrigue around him. I'm trying to think of more under the radar guys that were signed that could be, there's quite a few bullpen arms. I'm trying to think guys with major league experience, like a guy like Chasen Shreve, Jordan Weems, guys that aren't household names, Chad Kuhl, but that the Braves are going to bring in and see if they can kind of right the ship. These are all guys who at one point in time have had some success at the major league level, but then, next year they're in a different place and they have a 5 ERA and they get designated for assignment and they bounce around. Guys like that are the guys that you just hope one of them hits. You bring in 4 or 5. If one hits and can get back on the right track and have a decent major league season. And since there is a focus to me again on the bullpen, those are kind of the guys, Shreve and Weems and company, that I am interested to see if anybody pops during spring training.
Do you have a pun ready to go for Cole?
You guys have any ideas? I don't know.
I don't know, man. It would be interesting to see, like a cool frozen pizza or something.
We'll see. We'll see what comes up. So people say that those all need to be organic. I think it's probably a mix of organic because naturally when you broadcast the same people every night, you're going to come up with ideas even when you're not broadcasting. But I do think they are better organic in the moment if you can have that be the case. So,
well, we're going to take just a little bit of time right here. We got a game we want to play with you.
Oh boy.
It's called Guess That Brave.
Oh boy.
We're gonna see how good your trivia is.
Oh boy.
So it's my turn. I have a former Brave. I'll give you some prompts, give you some stats, and see if you can guess them.
Okay.
So he was a relief pitcher. He pitched for 13 years for 4 different teams. And he played for Atlanta in 2019.
13 years, 4 different teams.
He was a left-hander. Maybe I stumped you. Maybe I stumped y'all this time.
He only played one season?
One season with Atlanta, 45 games.
God, I'm trying to think of the lefties in 19.
Lefties at 19. I don't know. Who we got?
He's pretty big in the content world. Mr. Jerry Blevins.
Oh, gosh.
Bro, he played like 2 games. Come on, man.
It said 45 right here.
There's no, yeah, but that was a combination. He played
I
like
wouldn't
two
have
for
got that.
Atlanta.
That wasn't even a name that was going through my Rolodex as you were describing all of that. So,
Man, the only name that was going through my head when you said 2019 was Mark Melanson,
Yeah,
Shane Green. But when
Yeah,
you said lefty, I was just stumped.
I was
we're
looking
gonna
up
have
the
to make some
roster.
adjustments to
before
this.
you said lefty, I was thinking Darren O'Day, because he probably played about 13 for. I don't remember. I know Orioles, Yankees. I don't remember how many
Braves, I
teams
think it was
he
it.
played
Texas.
for. Texas, yeah. Uh,
Um, I was
by the
going through
way,
the lefties.
Darren O'Day's fantastic. By the way, awesome dude, and the games that he did on the radio
Yeah,
with Dan, he's phenomenal. And he's awesome to have on the road trips too. Another awesome guy. I love that man.
So a sneaky person that we've heard is really fun on road trips is Joe Simpson.
Oh, Joe's awesome. And Joe is one of those guys. When I met Joe, so at the start of the season in 23, my first road trip, we played the Nationals in DC. And we go to dinner the night before, kind of a tradition. You kick off the season with a nice dinner in whatever town you're in. And that's the first time I met Joe. And I was nervous because Joe was one of my childhood idols. I met Skip Carey because he was the play-by-play announcer, was at the top of the list. But Joe Simpson, Pete Van Wieren, Don Sutton, that made up the four-man broadcast crew. And so Joe to me was always just a larger-than-life figure. And sitting next to him in that dinner, and I was pretty quiet because I was just a little nervous that I was getting to sit next to Joe Simpson. But when you get to know him, he is hysterical. He is funny, and he's been around the game forever, 45 years. And so the stories that he has, the people that he knows, he's tremendous. And he doesn't go on many road trips anymore, so you usually have to catch him at home. But he's wonderful. Yeah.
yeah. We heard when he does go on road trips, he's the life of the party.
Yeah, he is, and not in a bad way, but he just knows how to have a good. He's like Frenchie. Like these aren't guys that are getting into trouble. They're just fun. They don't need booze to be fun. They're just naturally fun guys. And so yeah, they are a tremendous amount of fun to have on the road. By the way, I have to leave in 2 minutes because I've got something at 3 o'clock, and I have to drive down the road for it. So I just wanted to give you a heads up here.
Absolutely
So
fine.
sorry.
We can end it right here. We really appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us, talking some ball.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I'm sorry. I didn't know that we were going to go this long. I'm happy to do it, or I would have adjusted and asked for a different time.
No worries.
But it's been
Um,
great to talk shop with you guys and appreciate your passion for the Braves. Anytime you get to talk to lifelong Braves fans who love the Bravos, it's a good thing. So appreciate
yeah,
what you guys do, and thanks for having me.
Thank you.
absolutely. All right, we'll catch y'all on the next one.
Landed right on the shoulder.
Hawk tour.
Yeah. Let's do it again.